Tammy Hirsch and Dave Rodabaugh, and Municipal Court Magistrates John Payne and Richard Warren. Each of you brings so much to Lima, and I want to thank you for being my partners in public service. To county officials, township trustees, and state and federal officials, thank you for being our partners as well. If you are an elected official or a former elected official, please stand and be acknowledged. And none of the council members stood up. That's all right, we're public servants, right, guys? No, kidding, sorry. Also, to the dozens of volunteer citizens who serve on our city boards and commissions, thank you all for your service. If you're here and you serve on a city board or commission, would you please stand and be acknowledged as well? Thank you. To tonight's program participants and attendees, thank you for participating in tonight's address and for sharing your time and your talents. It truly shows your dedication to this city, and it is a perfect display of how we're all better together. You know, 14 months ago, when I took office, we started an initiative called Walking the Wards. And the intent of Walking the Wards was for city workers, from the administration and department heads down to frontline employees, to go out into the neighborhoods and work with citizens to identify what's working and to identify what's not. We met with small business owners, property owners, landlords, renters, neighborhood associations, and others across the city, and we listened. For example, many residents shared with us that they wanted to rehab their houses, but our program guidelines were too rigid and did not meet their needs. So we got back to City Hall and made some changes to deepen our impact. So we changed our land bank policies to think more strategically about land use. We started communicating more across departments and collectively collaborating to deliver better service. And we increased the income threshold to help more families make much needed home improvements. And then in February, we had our first significant snowfall, where roughly 8 inches of snow fell over our city over a course of a few days. It was my first ride on a snowplow. And I witnessed firsthand the behind the scenes planning and thoughtful execution that city workers put into keeping our roads clear so that citizens can move about. And one of the most impressive things I witnessed was that on more than one occasion, our workers stopped their routes in the middle to assist motorists that were stuck in traffic. These two examples are just two examples about how our city is cared for by so many people. People who go without recognition for all that they do. And so to all city workers, every accomplishment and every service delivery and every detail that I talk about that we did in 2022, it is only possible because of you. And it'll take too much time for me to thank all of you, and so I'll just acknowledge a few folks. And I'll start with Steve Cleaves. Steve, as we call him, serves as the city's finance director and will retire in April after 21 years of service. Steve, your experience and your wise counsel will truly be missed by not just us in the city buildings, but across the entire city. And so I want to say, on behalf of the Office of the Mayor, thank you for your years of service with the City of Lima. Also, Carol Snyder, who retired this February. Thank you, Carol, for dedicating 60 years of public service to the City of Lima. Please clap for Ms. Carey. Now, we have one employee who is not a retiree, and I can't tell you the number of citizens who stop me and make a comment about this particular employee. Many of them don't even know this person's name, but I know who they're talking about when they mention that person to me, because this person, through rain, sleet, or snow, makes it their business to take care of city buildings and other public spaces to make sure that the rest of us are able to move about. That person is Earl Tomlinson. Earl has worked with the city for 31 years, and so Earl, I want you to know that we see you, we appreciate you, and I want to publicly acknowledge that your hard work and dedication helps all of us do what we do. And lastly, let me recognize the department heads of the city. I'll ask that all of our directors please stand, department directors. Thank you. Thank you for your work and the contributions that you make to the city of Lima as well. Let me now shift. In March of 2022, just 4 months into office, I delivered my first State of the City address. 2022 was also the city's first year of recovery after the end of the COVID-19 pandemic. Upon Mayor Berger's retirement, we lost a number of key members of our leadership team. And so I stated then that the city was strong and recovering, yet changing. So we started 2022 by asking residents to share with us just exactly what does Lima's recovery look like. And we asked them to join with us to create a plan. We call this plan Better Together. Finishing this work will be our focus over the next 3 years, and I will spend the rest of tonight's address talking about our progress and highlighting how we will continue to meet our challenges. The Better Together plan focuses on 5 areas: maintaining city services, safe and livable neighborhoods, growing our economy, youth recreation and parks, and quality, affordable housing. Let me start with maintaining city services. In 2022, we paved over 17 miles of road and repaired 99,500 feet of sidewalks and provided engineering services for $5.7 million in capital projects. We repaired 92 water main breaks and expanded city water services to the village of Harrod and Lafayette, and also started a citywide plan to replace lead and copper service lines, a new federal mandate. We completed over 13,500 property maintenance inspections. We recruited and hired 53 new employees, including 17 in safety services. We made almost 10,000 police calls and fire calls. And in terms of city finances, we balanced the budget. We maintained our bond rating. We brought in $15.5 million in new grant funding. And we ended the year with $14 million in reserves. This represented the largest cash balance in the city's history. Now let me shift to safe and livable neighborhoods, and I'll start with crime. I am pleased to announce that homicides are down 43%. And the arson is down 20%. And I want to congratulate both Chief Cortez and Chief Hefner and all the brave, hardworking men and women who make up the Lima Police Department and the Lima Fire Department. I also want to thank our citizens as we continue to work better to build cooperation and trust between our police and the communities they serve. You know, when we see decreases in violent crime, they're not just statistics. What that means is that someone's loved one, their friend, their child, they made it home safely. Because our overarching goal is to continue to center on making Lima, Ohio, an even safer place to live, to work, and to visit. That's the good news. Now, the not so good news is that burglaries, robberies, and assaults are up in our city. So let me tell you how we've been responding. Number one, we made adjustments to the way we police, and we assigned our officers to neighborhood beats. Now they're out in the community even more, building better relationships and working with residents to help prevent and solve crime. We also reauthorized our SWAT team to help with targeted enforcement. We continue quality of life enforcement with the purchase of 2 speed trailers. And we started using technology to help solve and prevent crime by installing cameras, license plate readers, and gunshot detection devices. We held meetings with bar owners, and we committed to increased lighting and random spot checks to curb criminal activity happening around bars. And you may recall there was an incident where a young 10-year-old girl was shot while covering her siblings. The community stepped up, nonprofits stepped up, the clergy stepped up, and we are continuing to take more proactive measures to make our city safe. But we know that when we talk about safe and livable neighborhoods, we're not just talking about crime and the police, we are also talking about our built environment and the way our neighborhoods look. And that's why, in addition to the investments that we made in law enforcement and our Better Together plan, we announced that we would allocate up to 77 additional lights throughout the city. And on Monday's council meeting, we will share details of that plan, which identifies the first round of those locations. This summer, we'll start working with our residents to design neighborhood plans that will, for the first time in decades, give neighborhood stakeholders the tools where together we can create neighborhood plans for our future. Also under our plan, we committed to demolishing over 100 structures by the end of 2025. And in 2022, we issued 47 residential demolition permits. One barrier that we've identified is that our current demolition process has more than 24 steps. And so I'm happy to announce that we've worked with our law department to cut some of this red tape and will now allow for voluntary demolitions to speed up this process and help us continue to remove neighborhood blight. Going forward, our plan also called for investments to improve the quality and affordability of our housing stock. To date, the city has 124 active residential tax abatements, accounting for 150 housing units. From these projects, over $5.5 million have been invested in residential areas of the city. And in 2022, we committed $1.7 million in seed funding to the Lima Community Improvement Corporation, a new nonprofit housing developer focused on community and economic development. And I am super excited to announce that the private investment happening in this community is fantastic. Homeowners in Lima and Allen County for the year 22 invested over $4.8 million in new residential construction and rehab projects. As we look forward to these next few years, I think it's also important that we remember in terms of increasing affordability and home ownership, we still have some challenges in Lima. Today, there are still more than 50% of our residents that don't own a home. and more than 30% spend more than 30% of their income on housing. 17% of those spend more than 50% of their income on housing. So we have to be creative and understand that there are still far too many people that live in our community that work 2 jobs, sometimes 3, and still can't make ends meet. That's why we've increased the amount of our down payment assistance for first-time home buyers from $6,000 to $14,000. And next month, we'll start a new partnership with a national partner to do even more. This new partner in 2022 helped over 50,000 Americans buy a home. We also know that one of the primary drivers in housing costs is both the cost of land and the cost of construction. And recognizing that as a city, we can't do it all alone, we are also partnering with the private development partners, both large and small, to help bring down the cost of construction. We'll do this by leveraging city-owned property to use as an incentive to encourage investment, and also working with design professionals to create pre-approved residential plans, which have been shown in other cities to, again, cut the red tape, but also cut down the cost of development. But quite frankly, helping families afford a home also means helping families earn more money. That's why we'll be keenly focused on saying that while we continue to incentivize growth, we have to make sure that we don't just settle for any job. We need jobs that pay a livable wage. That's why the Better Together plan also includes investments to grow our economy. And in 2022, we started this by broadening the direct line of communication between small business owners and the city by creating the Department of Small Business and Workforce Development. Recently, through that department, we rolled out a new program with a simple goal. And the goal was to help more people in Lima bring more money in their households, our Lima Mowing program. And I'm happy to say that through that program, we've increased the number of small businesses doing business with the city of Lima, where traditionally work that went to 2 contractors will this year go to 8 different small businesses in our community. We also work to create the Community Entertainment District. Let me pause for just a moment and talk about the thoughts behind creating community entertainment districts. This new tool is a direct response from what we heard from residents. When I talk to high school students, and I do that a lot, 9 out of 10 of these young people, I ask them about their future, and they say they want to leave Lima. And of course, their response is, there's nothing to do. When I talk to young professionals that are working at places like Procter & Gamble and Ford and Mercy Health, they talk about wanting to leave because there's nothing to do. When you talk to parents and grandparents, they want their kids to move back. People are looking for new social opportunities. They want to see an increase in the arts, they want expanded food options, and they want those right here in Lima, and they don't want those just limited to the downtown. So we created the Community Entertainment District to expand these opportunities down our South Main Street corridor. And I'm happy to announce that earlier this week, that district was approved by the state of Ohio. We will continue to explore other ways to be responsive to residents and help grow our local economy and our quality of life. But we still have work to do, and we know that. And because we know that, Just like our families have been taking hits over the last few years, so have our small businesses. That's why I'm pleased to announce that I have legislation prepared for City Council that will be asking to set aside $500,000 in financial assistance to help small businesses in our community. But none of these investments will matter if we don't make much needed investments in our young people. That's why our plan called for investments in youth, parks, and recreation. In 2018, we started this work by launching ECHO, a 3-year pilot after-school program. To date, that program has served more than 100 young people, and it will continue in 2023. But also this summer, we will expand opportunities for youth through an 8-week summer youth manufacturing camp that will run in conjunction with the city's summer parks. And lastly, we will break ground on the much anticipated construction of a new pool scheduled to open in 2024. As I close, let me highlight a few stubborn problems that we will have to tackle as we move forward. Number one, we have to address early childhood education in our city. Although the city is not in the education business, we cannot sit back and be silent about what's happening with our very young children. To date, still, over 40% of young people enter kindergarten not ready. We have to take on that work. We also have to address the increasing problems with drug use in our city and work with our partners on prevention as well as intervention. Lastly, I'm concerned about our seniors. A growing number of our seniors are struggling with quality of life issues like minor home repairs, transportation to and from simple places like the grocery store or the doctor. We have to help those who helped us. And I believe that we'll do it. Because despite these coming challenges, I still have hope. And that hope is grounded in my thoughts about all the positive things that are happening where the city is not even the primary driver. Mercy Health and the success of the Graduate Education Center and the improvements you all are making in healthcare, but also workforce and community development. All of our partners who are doing beautiful projects downtown. Coach Q and his staff at the Lima Senior Basketball Team who kicked off their season painting a blighted property in South Lima with the South Lima Community Development Corporation. Scott Furniture at New Lima Homes, who is working to expand affordable housing. Our county and state government partners. Our tank plant and UAW members who are working to provide battle tanks to help the war in Ukraine. And because I am a reader and I like words, I have to give a shout out to the Shawnee Middle School 7th grader, Ope Mipo Balunga, who won the regional spelling bee. All of these stories are stories that tell a tale of grit, of drive, and just good old-fashioned hard work. But in these stories, and when I look out in this room, I see the face of Lima. I see people who are dedicated, people who are committed, who love who we are, and I'm proud of the work we've done. I'm proud that our best is in front of us. And I'm happy to say that today, our city, the state of our city, is strong and ripe for growth. Thank you, may God bless you, and may God continue to bless our great city.